nice to see you, and just kind of sat there, and took him back to his room, waited a few more minutes, went back again, and then with his wife there, and how upset she was, like I felt like I was in work mode up until we prayed, and Dick was like, I'm ready to go, and in that moment of like, do I stay for this? Do I leave? Would they want me to stay? Would they want me to leave?
Yeah.
And I know the nurse ended up leaving for a minute, and so I was like, well, I need to stay till she comes back, because I just feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. And when she came back, it was kind of that moment of like, I think I'm froze. Like, I don't know what to do now. Somebody want to tell me to leave or tell me to stay, that'd be great. And eventually, the nurse was just like, we can slip out. And I just was struck by I'm ready to go. And it was almost kind of like, I'm just going to kind of wait around here because he's probably going to die now, because he said he was ready to go. And then went and talked to somebody else, came back, and the CNAs was like, yeah, he's talking again. And so I'm like, the hell?
I think that they're calling it seizures.
Okay.
And maybe medication related.
Gotcha.
That they've changed the medication for
That's
him.
unfortunate. That it's but I guess, I don't know. So it was that whole, maybe it was just the first time in a while I'd been through that jetting back and forth, and I could not get that out of my head, but like, I'm ready to go, in that moment of where, I don't know, I don't think it's a movie thing, where like, that meant he was gone, like it's done, it's over, and then he's not, and he's still here, and like, how does Dick feel about that? Because he's still, I mean, he's obviously different now than he was before that happened. And so, yeah, I think I wrote about it in that being, I wasn't so much, I was comfortable just hanging out. And then I realized afterwards, because I overthink, like, am I weird for being too comfortable for hanging out? Like, I don't know. I hope not.
No, I mean, I think it enhances relationships, and you know, in my opinion, my thinking anyway, is that the people there have people coming and going so quickly that it's nice when they have somebody who's going to spend some time with them. And it may not, be a deep conversation. I've had some great conversations with Dick about the Cubs.
Yeah.
He and I bonded over the Cubs. And after they won the World Series, I saw him in the hall, and I said, Dick, isn't that great about the World Series? He goes, yeah. I said, it almost makes me think that there is a supreme being.
That sounds, right up his alley. Oh my word, that's funny. Yeah, I wore this is funny, the high school I coached for were the Centerville Wildcats. And their logo is Kansas State's Wildcat, except it's blue instead of purple.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had that jacket on one day, and he's looking at me, and I was like, hey, nice to see you. And he's like, I noticed your jacket. I'm like, it's nice, isn't it? And he's like, no, the logo. And I was like, oh, thanks. But we talked about Kansas State, and he knew, I think we got confused a little bit along the way, but like one of his kids was doing something with Costa Rica, or was involved somewhere over there, and that had come up, and I was in Costa Rica, and I think part of me is, I don't want to say grief, because I don't know if, it did not strike me in like a personal way, but lamenting on his behalf, knowing that he's still there, and seeing what he's suffering with, and I have not had to process that very often in my life, to know someone's going through that, and that there really isn't anything I can do. And, blah, blah. I know there's nothing I can do. I don't expect to be able to do anything. And I think I saw one thing about the feeling of the world broke for a minute. I don't think it broke in the sense of like I was ever upset along the way with God for what was going on, but I think I was surprised when what I felt would have been the just thing when he said he was ready to go was to go, and some slight projections from things I've heard along the way of feeling trapped in what's going on and all that. Just wondering if that's going on, but not knowing how to communicate with Dick about it anymore. And so that's all percolating around.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that this would be percolating if you didn't had established a relationship
Yeah.
with him. So, I just want to acknowledge that, that relationship sounds like it's been fruitful and sounds like it's been mutual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's gotten something from you, but it sounds like you've gotten something from him. And yeah, so, that's the hell of part of this job.
Yeah.
You get to know and appreciate people and then see them change at this age and change not for the better and you know them suffer.
Right. And that's I think that sums up the hard part about it, is just like knowing that, and it's hard not to sit there and be like, I know I would be suffering if I was in that place. So I imagine, by the guesstimate, that that person is also kind of suffering. And so I'm trying to think. I know I have not avoided seeing him or talking to him since that happened.
Okay.
I do know it feels different. Like I feel a lot more uncertain with what I'm saying. I do think that's kind of normal given the circumstance, because it's just he's different, and kind of having to establish the new normal. And then now that we switched units, it feels like it's like, well, this is a stupid ending to this. And I know we're not like siloed into our units, and I can go over and all that stuff, but it's just that. More so, it was the holiday break and being here less, and knowing like, in some ways that chapter ended, and now we're in this uncertain new chapter for Dick. And as my chaplain's here, like I feel like I'm a part of that, and also not sure what my place is in that for someone who, struggled to communicate before, and now even more so, is in that place.
Yeah. So is this communication? Less verbal.
I don't think he even wants. With what I've experienced is him not really wanting to try to do the verbal.
Okay.
I'll say hello, and he says hello back, or like nice to be seen, which I think is his go-to. Yeah. And then about 5 seconds later, there's the like, well, I won't take up more of your time, kind of implying like, okay, thanks for stopping by, you can go now. And then I saw him yesterday, and Alan Berry was over there.
Mm-hmm.
They were reading the paper together. He was trying to get, I think he was trying to get Helga's attention or something like that, but he just starts like hitting the table, and I was like, Dick, I think you could still say. So I think he's just, I know he struggled with the fact that he struggled to speak since I've been here.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that he said one time? He's like, I suffer from what is considered pretty classic Parkinson's. always with the formal way of speaking. And so I think I want to honor that and not make him, or try. I know I can't make him, but I don't want to set him up where he feels like he would have. Well, he might feel like he would have to. Trying to. I know we can't make people do things, but I think you know where I'm going.
Sure.
I don't want to pressure him to need to talk to me if he doesn't want to talk.
Well, I'm wondering if there's anything that you want to say to him and how you want him to acknowledge you.
For him acknowledging me, saying hello is great. But I think it would be good. I think I'd appreciate him knowing that I appreciate him. I try to say when I'm around the units, and like, it's nice to see you, like, I appreciate getting to talk to you today. But I don't know if that sounds kind of, hi, how are you type deal to people.
Well, it could be ironic and sarcastic.
Yeah, it could be, yes, right? Especially in the printed form. If I started printing notes that say I appreciate you, then one of the sarcastic thank you notes. Is And I think it's funny you say that because I hadn't really thought about that. But it makes me think about the other people in my life who passed away, and like if I've had chances to say things to them, most of the time I haven't. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it's interesting that you bring this up, and on Monday in the session you were wondering about, you know, on the second half as it get close to the end, what are we supposed to do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I see those as
They're probably connected a little
they're
bit.
probably connected. yeah, probably are connected. And yeah, so you know, I again, I appreciate that you've made a connection with him.
Mm-hmm.
He can be off-putting to some,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of like him too.
Yeah.
So you know, I wonder if, you know, when the time is right,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that you're able to express what that relationship has meant to you in your CPE experience.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be, you know, a way of maybe seeing yourself in that relationship with Dick. I think it's really interesting that Dick is probably one of those people who doesn't care how old you are.
Yeah. That's true. I think he's just happy to. Well, when he wants to have the relationship, speaking of how it can be off-putting sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
I think he is one of those people that just kind of knows you as you are and goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I look at that.
Yeah. So I wonder how you feel now thinking about that.
I think that it makes me reflect on how I do boundaries with stuff. Because since, first year of college when I was just like a volunteer youth group person, a year older than half the people in the youth group,
Right.
I had the youth leader at that time helped me to understand how boundaries worked and how that was supposed to go, and then how I've hardened those things since. I know when I got to, I helped with one youth group for a year, another for 2 years. And it was one of those, like, I can only get so close to people for my own thing, and because I know that and trying to communicate to those people, I'm only here for a time.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully the Methodist Church helps me to do that pretty clearly, and people kind of get it. Katie has brought up stuff along those lines with the folks here, because when I mentioned that we were switching units, she was like, well, good. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's that good. She's like, well, it makes sense that you're going to miss people. I think, I don't say this to say, like, I expect to just come in and do a thing and leave. I knew I was going to be with people and care for them and stuff, but I think what seemed like not that much time with folks, I think Kirk expressed it one way. It was just like, we get to be with people in the most vulnerable moments of their life. And I potentially did not think about what that would do to me as much as what that meant for the role that I had.
Yeah.
So, like, I understood what it meant for me in work mode, but potentially overlooked what it meant for me when I left work. And so connecting with someone like Dick, knowing I like him and care for him and appreciate him, and seeing him go through this is really hard, because I think he's a good person.
I used
With a scratchy towel around him.
Yeah.
And hadn't really thought about what that meant for me when he would start to, whenever decline would come. Same thing with someone like Thelma. Like, I know I've connected with her a lot, and however, whatever led to that happening, and her thinking that I'm a hired guitarist over there, which would be really funny today. I I feel for, I forget if it's Linda that's covering or Heather's coming over to do it today. But it makes me want to kind of like not go over there today, not to mess with that. She apparently asked Heather all day yesterday where I was. It was one of those like, that's really sweet, and I feel bad, and it's really sweet at the same time.
Yeah, it's something Heather has to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. That's true too. Yeah.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah. So, knowing those folks and like feeling like connecting, and I remember the first few weeks I was talking about like I don't want to connect that much. Like I feel like I'm being like projected, but it probably is more of just the having to wrestle with the knowing I'm going to be somewhere for a short time, and yet I get there and folks are willing to open themselves up as much as possible. And it would be not fair of me to not at least be open enough to caring for them in the same way, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just forgot what that would, what kind of impact that might have on me.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about boundaries, and boundaries are useful and important. But they're, sometimes boundaries around the heart are just not useful. Sometimes it's more useful to experience the feelings of what it's like to walk with somebody who's you made a connection with, and you know that they're not doing well.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's just it. It's the obviously the boundaries, physical boundaries, blah blah blah, are important. I may have spent a lot of time just assuming that feeling boundaries are supposed to be in the same camp as the physical boundaries, and you just kind of keep people over here. But
I've never been too good at that.
yeah, I trying to think if I've really been good at it or if I just have ignored things. It's probably more the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore them in the light of like, that's me keeping a boundary, is not addressing the things that come over the line. It's just sad. And I don't want me feeling that to influence too much of how I am in general here. Just like if I'm at Diet Church, I don't want that to stop me from what I need to do.
Yeah.
But there's a gray area between stopping you and you ignoring it.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're finding it appropriate that you're sad.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's makes sense.
Yeah. And how you pay attention to that and work at that, process that, but also continue darkening the door of Dick's room and other people, and that you're gonna find that you have an attachment for.
Yeah. I'm kind of it's funny when I first started and we talked about you could go to different units if nothing was going on in yours. I mean, like, well, I know the names of this unit. That's what I got. And so now I feel like, okay, as I'm getting to know the people over in AL, like, if people in AL are quiet, I know where to go. I can go over to long-term care. I know people over here, and I can. Skill rehab's a little different because they're in and out. It is kind of funny having Howard there right now.
Yeah.
Because I already knew him. But yeah, knowing that, like, it's one of those things where, like, I say this a lot. I say I know something, and then actually going through it, it still is a difficult thing sometimes to process.
Yeah.
And probably just being okay that's going to happen more. It's like, I know that we move units because that helps the learning experience and working with different people in different stages. That makes a lot of sense. That's what I would want done. And then the moment comes to do it, and it's like, well, I don't want to. And there's part of it that is I think there's a little part of me that means there's more people that I'm going to be opening up to, and that's hard. Because I know that in a couple months, however I want to live into maintaining some relationship here, which I do want to do, it's not going to be the same one I have now.
Right.
And so there's almost that, like, do I have to do this again? Like, get to know people and like them and have a relationship with them and then say, all right, I got to go. I think there's a little bit of me that was displeased to have to do that again. And I think it's part of the job, and it's good practice, and
Yeah.
not that it's you start them knowing you're going to end them, but you start them knowing that they're going to change, and being willing to live that out.
Yeah, I know that I'm always a little suspicious when people say it's so easy to say goodbye and just go.
Yeah.
But I've never found that to be true.
No.
But, you know, I guess some people are able to do it, but
They're the interim pastors, right?
the interim pastors, yeah.
Yeah, it was leaving. I think part of that probably comes from having just done it for church. Is where it's like, all right, it's now the third time in theory that I'm going through this hello goodbye process. And then I think about the fact that that was Katie's church that we left. And not that I need to put myself in my place, but I think it's important to remember the perspective of like, I signed on to do this. Katie did technically too, but not this part, not the leaving her own church part. And so, yeah, I think I would also be very suspicious, because even in moments where I was very ready to leave Pleasant Valley, it was still like, but I still care for the people here.
Yeah, so except for one place, I've always been ready to leave where I've left, but the actual leaving's been very hard.
Yeah, it is. And it's, I guess in hindsight, it's kind of cool because it shows what God's done with the relationships in that place. And again, it's like, yes, God, this is good. Yes, thank you for this. And yes, this is annoying and I'm sad. And how do I acknowledge that and then not, I guess, acknowledge the feelings without being consumed by the feelings.
Yeah,
It's the best way I could put it.
right. So as a wise person said recently to me, and I passed this on to another member of your class, that said it's important that you have feelings, but your feelings don't have you.
Mm. Yeah. I think it's, yep. So,
All right, I need to run.
sounds good. Well, I will walk some of the way with you, and then
Okay.
I can't believe it's. So I've actually been running
Oh, good. Your
three
foot's
days in a
good,
row.
okay. Are
Today
your
would be
leg?
4 days in a row.
All right.